Hello and welcome to Matchbook Live. We are here this morning discussing the Matchbook Betting Exchange Maiden Derby, which will commence at Towcester on Sunday afternoon. I'm Ian Fortune. I'll be your host for the next half an hour or so, and I'm joined, as always, by my great pal and a wealth of knowledge, the legendary Paul Lawrence. Paul, this isn't an easy one to talk about, but it's certainly an intriguing one to talk about.
It is, and I suppose that's what makes the competition special, in that there are a lot of unexposed dogs, and you don't really know what they're going to do. It's more what you think they're going to do, and obviously there's a wealth of really good top class trainers that are chancing their arm, and there's some local dogs and some sort of smaller trainers, if you like, that have got their eyes on the prize, which is obviously this year sponsored by Matchbook. So it's an excellent competition in that respect, and one for the kind of purists to get stuck into, and maybe, we could find a bigger price one that might do well in the comp.
We can try. We can certainly try, but there is a bit of an elephant in the room sitting on top of the betting, and it's going to be hard to see past them. But we'll talk about that in a few moments. Before we get into it, we do have a sign-up bonus we want to mention to you. Of course, this being part of the Matchbook Insights, and the bonus code for a €30 welcome offer. It's basically a €30 shot to nothing. Have your €30, perhaps in something we're going to talk about today with the Matchbook Betting Exchange, and if it loses, you'll get your €30 back in form of a free bet. So it really is a shot to nothing. And again, that bonus code is Insights30, all capitals, Insights30. I think it's a no-brainer, Paul. €30 and something for free. Why not?
Exactly.
Pick something out of 40 or 50 to 1. You never know. And it's a betting exchange. You can always lay it off at some point.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's a fantastic offer. Yeah, and that's the sort of thing. I mean, to be fair, Matchbook have got involved in sponsorship of Greyhounds, a fair play to them. They're looking to really sort of focus on Greyhounds now, and try and get things moving within the Greyhound markets. And again, I'm signed up with Matchbook already. So, but yeah, great offer.
I have to admit, I already had a couple of nibbles this morning. The market only went live this morning. I had a couple of nibbles. Of course, Matchbook got involved with Irish Greyhound Racing last year. They sponsored the Irish Ledger. They're sponsored again this year. And now this is their first step into English Greyhound Racing. They have been looking to get involved for quite some time. And here we are. And it's a great way to kick off proceedings. Of course, this competition, the Maiden Derby, it's certainly new to Towcester. We've seen the Maiden Derby at Henlow for years, but last year it happened to be won by a certain dog called Thorn Falcon. We don't have to tell too many people watching this morning what he went on to achieve. He became a tremendous winner of the Towcester, the Star Sports English Derby last year, and Thorn Falcon. Well, who knows? There could be another Thorn Falcon in there this year. Of course, we will start with the prices. And, well, there's only one place to start, and that is Havana Shadow. As I said, the market went live this morning. We've been looking at the firms for the last day or two, see if anyone would price it up, Paul. And the biggest price I could see about him was, I think, 7-4. But here we are. He went up this morning at 3.75, 3.7, 3.65, 3.6. All of a sudden, he's down to 3.5. Still much better than the fixed price firm, shall we say. It's hard to see past him. He looks a really exciting prospect. But the fact of the matter is that, Paul, he's only had the one start. He's very lightly raced. Granted, that was a sensational run at Tralee in the Juvenile Classic. Since bought, travelled across the water. He's now in perfect hands with Patrick Janssens, who's, well, very good with this type of greyhound. Of course, he trained the aforementioned Thorn Falcon. Havana Shadow, he's a deserving favourite.
Yeah, he is. There's no danger of that, and obviously, I think he's nigh on top of the Derby betting now as well, Ian, for the big comp later in the year. And yeah, I wrote against my notes him. He's just a machine. He just looks. Funny enough, you get the Clonmelon race, you get the Trillion race, which this dog was in, and then you get the Kirby. And there's a lot of those dogs that they catch the eye. And I know Pat Buckley's got a dog that I really like, Bandabula Ed, and Shadow beat Ed, albeit they're just starting their career. A lot of these dogs. So this Havana Shadow was obviously bought on that run and that potential from Noel Hare, and he just could be anything, couldn't you? Just put him in the could be anything trade. But it's the time, the 28-18 calculated doesn't lie, and he won obviously what transpired to be a reasonable field by 14 lengths. He started well on that occasion, but he looks like he's starting well at Towcester as well, which I think is going to be a big plus for inexperienced dogs. Ian, where if you're out in front, then you can't make too many mistakes, and it's that one chance. I suppose it's a 4-round competition. If you just make that one mistake, then it could be a little bit different. But he just looks, although he is an experienced, a bit of a professional at the moment.
Yeah, 4-run competition. I suppose that's why a few layers are willing to just take him on at the price he was available. Obviously, 6-4 and 7-4 is very short with the fixed odds firms, but 3.5, even the 3.75, 3.7 that was there this morning, that probably is on the generous side, because like the first round, while he is taking on a good dog in the likes of Stories Direct, look at the dogs around him. It's as much a gimme as he's going to get. Yeah, and you would expect if he does a 4:14 sectional, which was his first 500-meter start in Towcester, like that's running. And then he has the three fantastic sprint runs around Towcester. All evidence would suggest he's a sharp greyhound. His dam Yahoo Perlina was a very special lady. She was a 28-10 bitch around Shelburne Park. Droopy Sydney, the sire of the moment. He's June 20. He's in the right hands. He looks apart. He's the perfect size. The only thing I'll take out of him perhaps is Crossfield Lexi was 8 lengths behind him in the trial. She's beaten 4. Do you know what I mean? I just wonder, would he be susceptible if he didn't lead? And that's going to be the case with a lot of greyhounds. But by the by, he seems to be pretty much impenetrable in terms of there's no real weakness.
No, exactly, and it's you kind of you've hit the nail on the head. I can't disagree with anything you've said there, because he looks the part. As you say, you're kind of going into the unknown with opposition, but having said that, you're quite right. He sprints 15:73, 15:62, 15:53. Tell you he's going forward anyway. So, Patrick's a master at fetching young dogs forward. He knows what he's doing. As you say, he's got the track record with Thorn Falcon last week and last year, and Caulavani Shadow has just not stopped improving, really. So it's one of those, they bought him on that potential, but it looks like the times don't lie, Ian, and he looks like he's got the lot to me.
Yeah, let's not kid ourselves now here. Like, they didn't buy him for $5,000. You know what I mean? This wasn't one. Oh, this could be a nice dog. Like they bought him with a view that this is going to be a Derby challenger, and by all accounts, he's going to be certainly a maiden Derby challenger before he's an English Derby challenger. Again, he's the one to beat. I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll move down through them and see if we can find anything that perhaps oppose him with. Just take a look at those prices once again. Second choice in the outright betting was Havana Lover. Now, this is an interesting one. Obviously, she's considerably bigger at 13 than she is with the fixed odd firms. I thought they were ridiculously low at about 6 and 7 to 1 about her. I looked at her card, Paul. I obviously was really taken by her trial. She looks really strong, very fast bitch. She's had 14 trials, Paul. 14 trials. She's only had the 2 races. She was third in each of them. Obviously, she was very young at the time. She's had time to mature, and she's had plenty of trials, as I've said. I don't think she'd be my second choice in the betting. I'll be honest, although I've no doubt she certainly has the engine. Liz and Rab McNair, they're experts with this type. They unleashed Warzone Tom in this competition last year. He didn't get to the final, but he showed his worth in the competition. Havana Lover. I'm just worried for her. She's in trap 3 in the 4th of the heats. Luminous Invader up her inside. Sure, I Know Nothing. 2 dogs that can go to a corner, that have a bit more experience than her. Just my fear is that she might get a little bit lost in the opening round or two. But, that said, she has plenty of pace. Will the 13 attract you in, Paul?
No. I think she looks more of a staying type of greyhound, Ian, to be fair. Having said that, I think you're right. I think Sure I Know Nothing will probably lead this race. Got a bit of early in D1s. I'm not convinced that Matty Richards' charge will stay.
Yeah,
Havana Lover.
He ran 4 bends in Ireland once or twice. Didn't get home over 4 bends around Drumbo Park. That's not the hardest 4 bends in the world.
Yeah. So, I mean, ideally she could track him around and pounce late, because again, there's not, Olga looks a bit of a stayer. Savannah Camino lacks early pace. I know John Mullins was quoted as saying that Slippy Barrack needed to win his A2 if he was going to be anything in this competition, and he didn't.
He looks a stayer as well, doesn't he?
He looks a stayer, yeah. And Luminous Invader has got a little bit of trapping ability, but probably he's up against it, class-wise. So all things being equal, Havana Lover should win this race. But as you say, from a stay, and you look at the sectionals, 4:30, 4:38, 4:31, you know that she's going to be on the back foot. But I think her class will take her through in here. But in the later round, she's going to be probably turning 9 last, you know?
Yeah, that's the thing. There is a chance, obviously one or two will take her on Sunday, given the fact that she does have a bit of early speed around her, and she's so inexperienced. She's yet to finish in the first two in her 2 starts to date. That said, there is a chance in defeat her price might even contract. Depending on what she does, depending on the remaining heats, that 13. Who's to say in a week's time still might look a bit on the generous side. No question she has the engine, but as you say, Paul, there'll probably be more tempting opposition there. Farney's Maestro I see is in at 18, Coppice Fox at 19.5, Stories Pee-wee and Stories Direct. Stories Pee-wee and Stories Director, I suppose 2 for me to talk about, both ex-Irish. Stories Pee-wee gets in. I suppose technicality is the wrong term. He gets in on the rules, but if he'd come in as an international runner, he wouldn't have been allowed run because he has 3, AAO wins in Ireland. But he comes in as a maiden in the UK because he's now UK trained. Stories Direct is a dog who has really competed at the very top level in Ireland. Nice dog on the outside. He'll probably get his draw most nights, can go up well. Coppice Fox, we passed over there. He's plenty of pace. He has a bit of experience around Towcester. He's a dog for Kevin Hutton I could see going a few rounds.
Yeah, Coppice Fox is a greyhound that's probably one of those. When he starts, he shows nice early, and I was just a little bit worried about maybe his class.
Yeah, no, I can see that, Jay. Listen, he's plenty of strength, but in terms of like real early speed and perhaps a tactical pace to get out of trouble, that's where you're slightly worried.
Yeah, I mean, he's got good 2 to 3 as well, isn't he? He's got a little bit of early, and he probably, I'd say his box might be more 4 than 5, but he should be able to dominate in his heat, and I think he'll qualify quite safely because I know Blue Tick Kelver is going to be diving for the rails. I think Savannah Beau looks more of a stayer. So Coppice Fox has got a chance to qualify, but I mean, he won an A1 in a 29.53, and then he did his trial the other day and did a 29.56. He doesn't really smack to me of an improver, Ian. So I think he is what he is. He's a good quality greyhound, but he wouldn't be one for me for outright. So I kind of passed him on that.
I know the breed quite well, and most of them actually have blistering early speed. This fellow just seems to have a bit more strength than his companions. He's only had the 4 starts though, Paul, so I can't completely dismiss the chance that he'll improve. He was a semi-finalist in the Monmore Puppy Derby. I suppose he'd be very disappointed he didn't qualify that night. He led down the back straight and was picked up late for first and second, which was a bit disappointing. I get you. And the one we didn't look at there was Farney's Maestro. He's only had the 2 starts. Both came in Ireland. He won a second start in 28.88. I think he's been very much priced up on trials more so than anything else. Kevin Boone is a very, very astute man with a greyhound. He did a 4.19, 4.17, 4.16 in various trials around Towcester. He has a best 29.50. He'll want to improve further, but I suppose he has the right profile in the sense where he can certainly improve.
Yeah, definitely. And as you say, he won his second start, and it was an A7 at Limerick, and you think, geez, that's not. I mean, 28.88 is kind of moderate, really, but he did it nicely. But he looks he looks a natural breaker, and I think again, Ian, you probably agree in that Towcester being the track that it is one of those where you'd rather be off the front, and I think this dog could easily be that. It's a typical Kevin Boone dog. He's obviously, he trusts the sources that he gets his greyhounds from. You look at his trials have just gradually improved, and there's nothing to say that he can't go forward again. And the fact that he can cross the line first time in a 4.16, 4.17, he's doing it on a regular basis. Kevin's giving him plenty of experience at Towcester, which I think again is a good idea. He's got his draw. He might edge off a little bit from one, but Romeo Trooper's not going to bother him in the early stages. He looks again one of those greyhounds that you would be looking for as an unexposed type that could go forward. And to be fair, Kevin's had a lot of success with not flashy greyhounds, shall I say? He's a got a small kennel, if you like, but he has a lot of success, to be fair to the man. And Farney's Maestro off an A7 at Limerick wouldn't turn me on. But the fact that he actually got really solid, progressive trials says to me he's not completely out of it.
Yeah, that's it. You are looking for the dog that will find those 3 or 4 links.
Yeah.
And some dogs, when they're racing, the natural competitive instincts kick in, and it makes a big difference to them. And that's what you're looking for. Can
I just say one thing?
Go ahead,
there, Ian. Yeah, just because you have skipped over the 2 greyhounds that I'm quite interested in, but it's this competition is so sort of intriguing, if you like, because you've got the Cooler Vanny dog for Patrick, Shadow, and you've got this greyhound here, Farney's Maestro. They're really unexposed, whereas Nathan has got his hands on 2 of the Stories dogs that have actually got that experience in Ireland. So you think, hang on, do they? You basically know what they are. And I wrote on my notes for Stories Pee-wee, for instance, that this dog's been running against Beach Avenue and Ballymat Wild. Well, they would have a massive chance in this competition. So he's been holding his own with that sort of
Don't you worry, Paul. I was coming back to them. The Irishman and me, always going to move back to them, and another couple, let's say. Let's talk about them now, because it's ideal opportunity. Stories Pee-wee. He's an immensely fast greyhound. He's very strong. Obviously, he won't be going around the corner 3 in front. You'll be looking for him to pick his way through the field. I'm not too concerned about the draw, be it inside or outside with this dog. He has raced from both. I think he's probably better middle to wide. And then he gets a chance to sort of pick his spots. He's very strong, but they have tried him over 750 yards since, and perhaps not quite as sharp as he once was. But Nathan Hunt he's very good at sharpening up greyhounds. He's very good with sharp type greyhounds. So I'm hoping that he'll find a start in Stories Pee-wee. He's certainly a greyhound that has to be, included. He's 29.42 in his card for 550 yards at Shelburne Park. That's a hell of a run. That's a 29.20 run around Towcester every day of the week. I can see why, I can see why 1 or 2 people are aggrieved that he's in it. The fact that it's a maiden derby, and here he is, a dog that's competed at the very best in Ireland and won races over the AAO. But the rules are the rules, and he gets in, simple as. He'll be hard enough to keep out of the frame. Stories Direct is a different scenario. He has to do it from the front. He's a dog where always looked like the penny was going to drop with him. He competed in the rural Hawaii at Stud unraced last year, finished second to Jack's Little Thing, who went on to be third in our derby. Other dogs that came out of that competition have been very, very good. Stories Direct is probably better suited to Towcester, perhaps, than Stories Pee-wee. And again, he's going to be doing it off the front. He's facing a tough opening round assignment. He's taking on a certain Cooler Vanny Shadow. That's without question probably the most intriguing clash of the entire opening round. If he takes to Towcester, and that's not a guarantee, but if he takes to Towcester, obviously that 19.5, 19, he's shorter with the fixed odd firms. There'll be plenty of people interested.
Yeah, and again, I've had a little interest in the pair of them, because I just feel that they are quality. This is the point I was trying to make just then, was that you've got that they are what they are, and they're with a decent trainer, they're transferred to a decent trainer. Whereas
they're exposed, but they're exposed at a very high level.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, which this is what I'm saying, is kind of intriguing for the competition. That these are the talking points that I believe, and I'm pleased you said right on the intro for Stories Pee-wee that I actually think that he is better as a middle seed, Ian. I think he'll break clean from down the middle. 3 or 4 won't bother him. Whereas his last couple of runs in Shelburne were from 1 and 2, and I just felt he was edging off. And you know what I'm like with lines. I want dogs to run in straight lines, and I think
he's far more likely to find trouble from the inside than the outside, which is generally counterintuitive for a dog that can run from the inside. But I just think he sort of watches himself around the corner and sort of loses more ground from the inside whereas if you give him a middle to wide draw, I think he'll be able to make his holds better.
I agree with you. I think this here is a perfect race for him, because I think he's got a massive class edge here as it is. You look at his trials, 1650, 1621. They don't match Cooler Vanny's Shadow in the slightest, in the 29.97. But one thing we're not sort of privy to, from Nathan's point of view, is has the dog settled? He's had him 5-6 weeks probably. again, obviously, this was the sole target, I guess, and the stepping stone to go to the Derby, because he'll definitely be that sort of quality to get through to the latter rounds. And Storage Pee Wee for me was one of those sort of solid bets. I think he was about 1920, wasn't he, when the markets opened on the Matchbook Exchange? So he was one that I just thought was a no-brainer to get involved with, Ian. And I've had a little bit of an interest as well on again, as you mentioned, wide runner, Storage Direct. So he'll probably keep getting his draw, won't he? So
yeah, well, he's 28-30 around Shelburne Park, and like he'd do it for fun. You know, one of them. He, like, when you look at his run in last year's Winter Racing Festival over 550 yards, he's picked up late, but he's picked up late by like the Swords, Maestro, and dogs like this, like really proper 550-yard greyhounds in Shelburne Park. So, you know, as you say yourself, they're exposed, but they are very talented. There's no question.
You can see them getting to the final, good enough to get to the final.
Shadow included. They all have to prove they can get to that level yet. Now, it's a no-brainer. Kulavani Shadow will get to that level, but there's not too many outside of the market, or there's not too many others in the market you can say, oh, they'll definitely get to the same level the Storage Pee Wee and Storage Direct got to.
Yeah.
And with Kulavani Shadow taking up so much of the market percentage, all of a sudden you're getting 20, 19.5 around for dogs that are proven, as you say, at the very highest level. I just want to move down a couple more. Crossfield Lexi's an interesting runner. She was behind Kulavani Shadow in the trial. She did a 440 sectional. I don't think she's a flying starter by any stretch of imagination, but I think there's certainly a 425 in there. And you saw the ground she made up from the third bend home in Kulavani Shadow. She looked very strong in her previous starts in Ireland. Perhaps lacks a yard of early, no question. But she's one that could progress. Would she be my choice? No. And the one below her, just below her in the market, is Wide Open. Now, Paul, when I tell you that this lady could be anything, I mean, she could be anything. I think she's an absolute flying machine. She's the sole Irish representative, shall we say. Brendan Matthews is going to be bringing her over, or should I say Damien Matthews will be bringing her over. The fear is she hasn't had the look. But I can promise you one thing, this lady has some engine. She is an exceptionally fast bitch. She ran her debut in the Kirby. Yeah, it was the Kirby. First round of the Kirby, she was fifth. She's beaten 7 lengths, let's say. But she's beaten 7 lengths by Droopy Edison and Kulavani Hoffa. 2 greyhounds that if the Derby started tomorrow and they were there, they'd be in the top 10, 12 in the betting.
They would. She
was clear of them into the escape. She since came to Shelburne Park in her second ever start. She got trouble on the corner on a night where nothing was doing time. She came from 8 behind to win by 3 or 4. She's 12, 14, 20 clear to the escape. She's just immensely fast and immensely strong. Again, the lack of a run is a serious issue. But the 24 on the exchange, I'm willing to take a chance that she'll qualify a couple of rounds and then find her feet. And you know yourself with the Matthews clan, what they don't know about greyhounds, it's not worth knowing. They are legends. If you get a chance to see her in the flesh, she'll be like the rest of their dogs. Her coat will be like a mirror. She'll be absolutely shining. She'll be at best of condition. And I just think she's one for me that I'll be tipping up at 24. I just thought that was a perfectly respectable price about a bitch that in 6 months' time could easily be as fast as Kulavani Shadow, if not faster.
That's interesting. Yeah, she looked more of a style when she won the A2 in Shelburne to me.
She probably is, Paul, and that's that's in the breed a little bit. The Ballymac Bulger out of Dolce Vita, who ran 6 bends herself, but I still think she hasn't quite found her feet, and I just wouldn't be surprised if she's a bit sharper than she's looked.
And she'll as you say, she'll be fetched on kind of gradually by Brendan, and she's August 20, isn't she? So she is very, very young indeed.
I'm going to open the floor, Paul. Anything below them? Obviously, there are so many unknowns. There was one I just noticed this morning. I went to take a look at his price, and he wasn't in the top 15, top 20. And I was going, God, I didn't think this dog. And I got down to Sonny, a Swift Iconic. And whoever put up the prices this morning, it was gone. It was just grey on the left side. There's the man. Swift Iconic. Paul, tell me about him. He's obviously shown plenty of early speed. He's bred to stay a bit further. You're taking a chance that this has been the plan.
Yeah, I mean, well, I don't know whether it is the plan necessarily, but John Mullins is excellent with young dogs. That he obviously got quite an association, hasn't he, with the Swift prefix greyhounds as well. You're right, Droopy's Roddick. He should stay all right, and yet he's been sprinting. And 1597, 1584, and 1595. They're decent enough. They're decent enough runs, and it's that early zip. And I've been watching him after the line as well. And he's not stopping.
They're certainly decent runs, but when you consider the 1579 was on debut, it's very decent. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, it just looks as though he could go forward. I wrote down he's unexposed, and for this sort of competition, again, that's what you're looking for. We've spoken about this unexposed stroke, hardened form, and the difference between it. That there are so many greyhounds that are lurking here that will improve and step up massively, and some will just do it gradually. But Swift Iconic is a greyhound that you'd have to say, how many of the dogs in this competition will stop the clock in the sprint at 1580?
I think the overall tone of this competition is that it's more strong running, stamina laden greyhounds in it than there are early speedsters. Now you have the few exceptions. I think Coulivanny Shadow is certainly one of them. Stories Direct is another. But thereafter, there's not too many you're going to say, well, okay, we've spoke about a couple of the ones that are racing against the two dog that in particular is running against the Havana bitch. The dog, Sure I Know Nothing. He's another one with fine early speed, but we don't think he's going to stay it. But outside of them, there's not an awful lot of dogs you can say there's a professional early pace greyhound.
No, and the thing is, Ian, and a lot of us are guilty of compartmentalizing dogs. And you could say Swift Iconic, because John's sprinted him, he's a sprinter. But like you quite rightly said, he's to droop his Roddick, so he's not really bred to be a sprinter. So therefore, he is a dog. Then I say, well, he can do it in D1 company. All right, it's not the best company in the world, but it's not like you're beating A7 dogs. And he's not stopping after line either. So we're taking it on trust that he does stay. It looks like he will. We've got no hard evidence with a line of form which says he's done a 29.90 or a 29.40. So we don't really know that. But he's in the hands of a man that knows what he's doing with young greyhounds. I'm not saying there's a lot of good trainers with some decent dogs. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I've got a lot of respect for John, and he knows what it takes to win a competition of this nature, shall we say.
Yeah, and he's the type man, you can be absolutely certain the dog hasn't left us behind him already thus far. He's only had sprints. He's ready to start properly training the dog, shall we say.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Anything else at the bigger prices that caught your eye? I'll just mention a couple to you. Just for small nibbles and nothing major. Like, don't get me wrong, I wouldn't be massively fancying or anything like that. I just thought Coppice Brewer caught my eye. I thought he looked a nice type of dog. He's the 2972 trial. He's again another member of that Droopy Sydney Sizzling Daisy litter. He is 29.30 around Towcester. Granted, was rated 30 fast on the night to 29.60. But just I like his profile. He's with Kevin Hutton. He's only had the 5 starts. He's won 2 of them. I think he's a nice type. He's around. I thought he was around the 45, 46 mark. Am I wrong? 46 there, readily available. 44, 42. A few quid stacked up there if you want to back him. And another dog who listen, he's had it. He's had only a couple of runs, but he's shown plenty of promise. He probably will need to improve a few lengths. Hell of a kerfuffle for Jamie Kingsley and Hove. I don't know an awful lot about Jamie. You'll probably be able to tell me more.
Jamie's come from a greyhound family himself over here, and he's done remarkably well with. He's a young lad and working hard, and yeah, I must admit, Hell of a Kerfuffle did show pace at Hove in A1 company. It's not a poor grade at Hove by any means. So
no, A1 and Hove is good running now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. But I did notice he was kind of one of those misbreakers, which doesn't mean to say again that he is A plus B equals C, and he is just a misbreaker. He can improve, obviously, because he's a youngish greyhound. But no, yeah, he'd have some kind of a squeeze. I think that's where he wants to be drawn just off. I don't think he wants trap 1 necessarily. I think 2 is a better box for him, but he has got blue tick Culver going diving for the rail, so he's going to have to just mind himself. But yeah, he's the sort of dog that could go, to the next round or so. One greyhound that I looked at, and again from a man I don't know too much about, but I've seen him and I've been impressed with what he does. Is Milton King. Lee Field, the trainer, and he's unraced, but again, his trials look like they might just be going forward. He's probably a work in progress. But again,
he's out of
Lee's
Royston
had some.
News. The previous litter were strong of Royston News, I believe. Don't hold me to that now. Now this fellow led in this trial, was picked up, but yeah, this is his racing debut, so obviously we don't know what he's going to do. But I thought if anything in the first round, he could be one that represented a bit of value. Havana Robusto in 4 lacks a bit of early. I thought he'd edge inwards from 4.
Yeah, I've got diving for the rails. I saw him at Monmore. He was violent to go inside. Now that might have just been a one-off, but I don't think he's going to be moving off against Milton King. Put it that way. I just thought that Lee seems to me to be one of those lads that's really trying hard. He's really got a bit of a passion for the game. He likes a bit of a bet. I think the kennel like a bit of a bet, and therefore he
likes to slag people too. He always gives me grief when United are beaten. That's all I know. He's an absolute true blue. He's our true red, should I say? He's a Liverpool man to his core.
Yeah, but yeah, and it just seems to have that bit of passion and that bit of he roll his sleeves up and graft away and try and get himself a few quid. And I like that. I like the fact that he's ambitious. He's trying hard, and he'd be one of those kennels, Ian, that this competition would be a challenge for him,
Yeah.
And they're not easy to find, the dogs to, they're not easy. And what you say, you've got the likes of Vanny Shadow, they built him for the Derby, and he's slipped into this. It's one of those where there are varying degrees of quality of dog, but there's that chance that you've got a real unexposed dog that, given a bit of luck in the first round, might just keep progressing.
Yeah, no, I get you. He's owned by Manny Garcia, who's putting a few quid into the game. He's trying to buy a nice type of dog for himself. And I was going to say this explosive king, Milton King. He was known as explosive king in Ireland. He could be anything. And there's just one or two I just like to quick mention. We're already speaking 32 minutes, Paul. I know it's hard to believe. It was absolutely flown through. One or two I just want to give a mention to. Savannah Beau was bought for good money out of the sales. He looks a strong runner. He has a 29.85 around Shelburne Park. Got stopped a couple of occasions in that time. 29.60 wouldn't have disgraced him. He's like Diane Henry. She knows the time of day for Kevin Boothby. It'd be interesting to see how he runs on his debut. As I said, he's in trap 4. Blue to Kelva in 3. Will Edge to the rail. He's another dog I want to mention. He was known as Kepler Varus in Ireland. He was trained by Owen McKenna for Simon Taylor, actually now owned by the Blue Tick lads. He's a nice type of dog. He was progressive. He looked like he'd be a real speedster, had to get to the front. Then one night he came from behind. He only has 28.61 this card, Shelburne, but I thought there was always room for more improvement. It'd be interesting to see how he takes to the place. I think he'll need to find his trapping boots pretty sharpish, because of all the heats,
well.
That's one of the heats where, like, I had 4 or 5 dogs written down from that heat that could go further. Hell of a Kerfuffle, Blue Tick Kelva, Savannah Beau, Coppice Fox, and even the likes of Lenston. Bobby has enough on his card to suggest he's pretty useful. He's 2 wins in A1 company. Anything else that you just want to give a brief mention to, Paul, because we do have to wrap it up?
No, they were the dogs that I've had an interest. Obviously, Vanny Shadow I thought was big at 3.7. The 2 Stories dog, Stories Pee Wee, quite impressed with him, and the Stories Direct dog. And the one I think was massively overpriced, and you probably might still get a bit of juice in it, is Swift Iconic.
Swift Iconic. So you've gone with beg your pardon, the 2 Stories dogs, Swift Iconic, and of course Vanny Shadow.
Yes.
Vanny Shadow, I'm going to put up to cover my stakes on the others.
That's what I've done.
That's the way I see it, because he is no question the dog to beat. And it'd be good for Matchbook, and it'd be good for the competition if he did win it, because I have no doubt he'd be a big player in the Derby for Patrick Janssens. The one I'm going to mention as well is Wide Open. As I've said, 24, I think there's still a bit of juice there. Obviously concerns that she hasn't been around the track, and she is young and very inexperienced, but she had definitely has a massive engine. Of the 2 Stories dog, I think Stories Pee Wee could go furthest, but I'll leave those 2 to you, right? So I'll go with Vanny Shadow to cover the stakes, Wide Open, and then the other 2 that I did mention there, Coppice Brewer and Hell of a Kerfuffle. Just that biggish prices could be worth a little nibble. I feel if they get through the opening round, get a chance to get their teeth into the competition, shall we say, they could go a couple of rounds. But all in all, an intriguing 4 weeks ahead of us, Paul.
It certainly is, yeah, and I can't wait actually. So and we're going to cover the final on the Ground Watch Along as well. So that'll be really interesting.
Busy man.
Indeed, not as busy as you, but.
Oh, I don't know about that. Well, that's because I've got the 3 small kids, you know. Listen, Paul, thanks very much indeed. Once again, folks, don't forget that €30 sign-up offer, a €30 shot to nothing, and the code INSIGHTS30. Bet your 30 quid on something, perhaps bet it on, well, I was going to say the dog that Paul is back to, or the big price dog. What we call him again? Oh, iconic.
Swift iconic. Yeah.
Swift iconic. Instead, have it on one of mine, maybe wide open at 30. If she gets through that opening round, gets her feet in, she could go a lot quicker in the second and third rounds. Have no doubt about it. But that's it from Matchbook this morning. Again, if you're watching this on playback on YouTube or whatnot, press subscribe on all the various social media channels, and keep up to date on all matters Matchbook Betting Exchange Maiden Derby. But that's it from us this morning. The very best of luck to all the competitors. It's a hell of a competition, no question though. Cool of any shadow, the dog to beat. We'll see you next time.